Hello, everyone. This is Z, and today I have a special guest with me, Mr. Adam Holzman from Steven Wilson Band and a few other projects. He's a very busy man. Thanks for giving us your time, Mr. Adam. How are you
Good.
doing?
Good. And happy to be here, Z. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, you have been like keep releasing music every other air, and looks like quite a lot happening. So
I'm working on a new album now. That's it's almost finished. But I just recently did put out another project, kind of unrelated to my current timeline. But I had some old recordings of my group when I was 18 years old, just getting out of high school, and I just released a
yeah,
Bandcamp
it's called My
only
High
on
School
Bandcamp.
Band, right?
Uh, It's called my high school band. We were called at the time we were called Five Part Invention, based on Bach two part inventions, blah blah. Anyway, um, and we were good, and we had some cool ideas, and over like God, something like I don't want to say, but decades and decades later, it sounded for some reason for me it sounded relevant. I don't know why. That's why something by a high school band from 40 years ago sound relevant. But anyway, yeah, it's got a vibe, and I wanted that this music to be out in the world. I
Yeah,
wanted
so
this recording to be out
sometimes,
in the world.
when you're, earlier in your career, for example, when you're writing, recording, it happened to me as well. Like you write some cool stuff, and back when you revisit them, and you really think, oh, that was something was happening there, something maybe
Yeah,
original stuff there, and something like good inspirational stuff, and it brings back a lot of good memories. And so I mean, will looking forward for that. I'll definitely check out. Uh, what's other?
you can also you can also recycle
Yeah.
old ideas, stuff that the stuff that you did years ago, you hear in with new ears, and you can do
So
something different with it. This project
yeah.
that I did, I should make it clear, is during the pandemic, I got together virtually with my old
Mhm.
buddies from back in the day, and we recorded a couple of new songs, an instrumental and a cover of the
Uh-huh.
Yes song "Soon." And then in addition to and so that we added that on to the recordings we had from back in 1976. So
Okay.
that's what the package is about. It's kind of interesting for people who are interested in what I've done.
So
It's
those
kind of interesting.
recordings were like
Anyway,
on
enough
tape
about that.
or where they exist?
Real, yeah, four track, TAC four
Wow.
track, reel to reel. Yep.
So what
And yeah,
so what
yeah,
was
yeah,
the
four
restoring
tracks.
process for that? Like you work with somebody or like you took the initiative yourself? Like how was like finding those tapes and restoring
I,
that?
yeah, yeah, I did it. We had a long time ago. I had transferred the
Mhm.
tapes to cassette, and I had it, and I was able to get a good play off of the. Because sometimes cassettes
Yeah.
they sound different sometimes when you play them. Anyway, I recorded that straight
Mhm.
into the digital domain, and then from there I was able to um, tweak
Okay.
the EQ and stuff like that. So it was mastered from an old
Uh,
cassette, so not from the original four track tapes. So I should maybe do that. I don't even know where those would be. Maybe in California.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, that definitely interesting. You found those tapes, and you are like restoring it, and it's like, so is it out on Bandcamp?
It's on Bandcamp, and there's going to be a physical version available for diehard fans
Okay,
in a couple of
so I'll
weeks.
I'll
So
put a link
yeah, it's
during
called
this
I.
interview, so we'll visit
Okay,
that.
great. All right.
What other projects you
All right,
recently
good.
released this year? A new record with Trifecta as well. Yeah,
Did the trifecta? Yes. That album is it, I talk about all over the map, but in a good way, But it's definitely all over the map, and I guess that's not surprising considering the strong
yeah,
personalities involved. Uh, but that album was another remote recording process. But I think it's different when I do it when you do a remote recording with people that you've played
yeah,
hundreds of concerts with. It has a different sound than people who never met that just add their layers onto a track. It doesn't
yeah,
really sound like a band.
yeah.
Sometimes you get lucky, I guess, but usually it sounds like an email record. But When I'm working with Craig and Nick, we have so much history
Yeah.
together that it comes together and it sounds really natural.
So
And we have vocals on the new album too,
so
more
you
vocal
you did the
tracks.
vocals or as well? No, no, no.
No,
Nick usually does, right?
no,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
Nick. Yeah.
I was like asking about like your songwriting process for that project, Trifecta. So like different people start the ideas, to collaborate. So like, what's the process looks like most of for the most of the songs?
Well, it was two different, slightly different processes. The first time around, what had happened was we had spent, we had been on the road quite a bit promoting
Mm-hmm.
To the Bone, and we had a lot of long sound checks. And we would jam when the official sound check was over. We would start jamming, and Craig would come up with ideas. Nick would come up with a hit bass line. One of us would grab our phone and record it, and to maybe use for later. Very
Mm-hmm.
often those ideas get lost. But I guess I don't know. I guess it was like 8 months later. We're all stuck at home for the pandemic, and we started going through these old ideas. But these ideas were truly organic because they
Jam it, yeah.
came out of us jamming initially. So that
Mm.
was one process. It started from raw ideas that we all got grouped together. The second album was a little bit more like a regular remote recording project where someone starts, gets the ball rolling, and people
Mm-hmm.
add their parts to the track. But there was definitely a fair amount of back and forth, and we had a lot of material. We weeded out a few things. We ended up with almost with quite it was
Mm-hmm.
something like 19 songs, something. The concept of the band has always been to keep it short, to not let an idea
Mm-hmm.
overstay its welcome. So, whereas you probably be able to make three prog rock albums out of the the 19 songs,
Yeah.
we made just one album. I mean, when we first did the first album, we thought instead of having three 15-minute songs, let's have 15
Mm-hmm.
3-minute songs. And that's what we did on the first album. And then we sort of took that idea over. The songs got a little bit longer,
Yeah.
maybe 4 minutes, but I think we might break that
Yeah.
mold on the next
So the
project,
album
but
is
we'll see.
called The New Normal. The New Normal. So
The
yeah,
new normal.
definitely we'll
Yeah.
check it out. And I mean, of course, you've been involved with, you have your own project, Brave New World or something. What was the recent release you came up with? The Brave.
Uh, well, Brave New World. Yeah, that's been my ongoing band project
Mhm.
for many years. Some of those guys I
Yeah.
played with for decades, and those are my buddies and stuff. But I haven't done any Brave New World stuff
Mhm.
this past year. I've been focusing on. Oh, I've got a number. I've got like I don't know, at least 6 or 7 Brave New World albums, and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something more in the tradition of the old-fashioned sort of keyboard wizard albums, and that's why my next project is going to be, like I said before, mostly piano and
Mhm.
synthesizer with some special
Yeah,
guests on
yeah. Your last
drums and
record,
stuff.
Truth Decay, was really good. I mean, it has like jazz prog and that type of vibes, uh, which was I really enjoyed that record, and that's lead to
Oh, thank you.
more like working with you on the Fire Garden stuff that we did. So I mean, of course, you took my songs to a very different level, which still, I have a couple
Okay.
of songs unreleased from your recordings, which we are planning to release,
Oh,
this year
okay.
or
Okay.
next.
Okay.
Yeah, there was one song we did, I think maybe 10 minutes long, uh, with Marco playing drums.
I
Yeah,
vaguely remember. Oh yeah, yeah, right,
yeah.
right. I remember
So that
Marco's on
is
there. That's
still
right. Oh, that's
unreleased,
yeah.
and
Okay.
I think you had some
Okay.
best
Okay.
work still on that recording. So we'll working on that to release very soon, and so you did a small maybe EP release with your son as well. You like record stuff.
That's right. That was more of that was a straight electronic improvisation, but we did a number of those, but that one really had a nice flow to it. So I decided to put that one out as a Bandcamp only, not even a physical
Uh-huh.
release of any kind. But yeah, and I wanted to
Right.
do something with Russell, who's my son is becoming one of the hot
Mhm.
drummers on the scene now, and
Ye-
we're very proud of him. So anyway, he's really into electronics, and he's got a great approach
Electronics,
to
yeah.
electronic
And you
percussion.
work with Jane as well, your wife, which I didn't know initially. And when I
Oh,
think
okay.
she did a
Yep.
record few years back, so something on, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
got
yeah.
the burning flowers on the
Yeah,
front. Yeah,
burning flowers. Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah, so then I like looked into that because I like the songs and your involvement in that, and I was like, okay, who is this lady guitar player? And
Oh,
found out that
okay.
it's your wife. So you're touring with her as well. Like I see you've been playing at the cruise and other prog festivals recently.
Yeah, she's done a really good job of sort of getting into the Prague circuit. We did Cruise to the Edge 2 times. We've done Prague Day in North Carolina, Prague Stock in New Jersey, and we just did another Prague Stock related event in Rutherford, New Jersey. And we're going on a little tour in the middle of October. We're doing a little Midwest tour. We're going to play. We're doing a clinic at Sweetwater. We're going to be doing some gigs in God, I can't remember exactly, Chicago and Cleveland and somewhere else. Anyway, so that's I'll get more info about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely her project is going strong right now,
Mm.
and then she'll probably take a little time off from playing out and start working on the next record at some point soon.
So Adam, you have a new record coming out. Well, can you share details about it, or is it like a secret project right now?
It's actually a little bit of a secret project yet. I can show you the album cover. I don't know if you saw this before. It's called Zombie Apocalypse, and it's going to be mostly solo piano and synthesizer with some special guests on it. And it's more
Okay.
experimental. Most of my records have been sort of heavy duty jazz rock, progressive rock band
Mm.
albums, and this is definitely going to be more of a proper solo album.
Okay.
And also this great album cover. I keep showing it to. I love the album cover. Is Hayo Mueller uh, did the album cover? He's the guy that did the artwork for many of Steven's projects,
Yeah, he's been a
especially
busy guy, and I've seen his work. He's done quite a good stuff. Uh,
a really iconic cover. Of course, is Raven though.
yeah, Raven. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
that
it's
was
great.
a really good. This album, you're focusing mostly on piano and synthesizer related stuff.
And percussion is also generated from the modular synth and stuff like that too. So I try
Okay,
to do a lot of it with using modular and all analog stuff.
which
And
is
it's a nice combination having the electronic percussion mixed with tabla drums because I have a tabla drummer,
Mhm.
Arjun Rugaman, excellent tabla drummer, and that combined with a Moog bass instead of a conventional bass. All these different things. I'm trying to sort of reinvent the wheel a little bit and sort of get away from the usual expected formats.
Mhm. So this record, when it's going to be out?
Well, I don't have a firm release date yet. It's about, it's, it's, it's about five, four fifths completed. It's
Mhm.
mostly done, but I'm planning on getting it out before the end of the year.
Okay, so are you doing independent release or working with some label for that?
It's looking like it's going to be an independent release. It's looking like
Okay.
I was chasing a few labels around, but I think that I don't know. It's tricky. This kind of project is it's not electronic enough for the electronic labels, and it's not jazzy enough for the jazz label. I should say it's too electronic for the jazz labels and too jazzy for the electronic labels. That's how I should say it. So I'm going to be putting it out on my own, but it'll be very available. I'll make it'll have good distribution and
Good
it's on all
distribution
the
available.
platforms, all that stuff. Yeah,
So,
it'll be out there.
so can you talk about different guests involved in it, like some?
Yeah, these are really great players. Arjun Brueggemann is a percussionist and tabla player, um, and actually more about him in a second. And I also had on here an excellent saxophone player named Ofer Asaf. He's
Mhm.
blazing. He sounds Like he's kind of coming out of the tradition of Michael Brecker and Bob Berg. He sounds killer. As a matter of fact, he sounds particularly good. You mentioned Truth Decay, my album Truth
Yeah,
Decay. I did a live album follow up called The Last Gig that
yeah,
came out in 2020,
yeah.
and you hear Ofer a lot on that, the saxophone player, and he
Hmm.
plays some amazing solos on that project. So if there's folks out there that dug Truth Decay, they should check out. I'm sorry about that. They
Yeah.
should check out um, uh, the live album called The Last Gig because it came out. It was the last gig. We recorded it on March 13th, and we went into lock. No, we recorded on March 12th, and the whole city went into lockdown on March 13th.
No.
So we all knew something was coming. I even said at the gig, "Hey, everybody, welcome to the last gig." Who knows, man?
Yeah.
No one knew what was going to happen at that point.
Yeah.
So anyway, so anyway, Ofer is involved with that project, and Arjun has turned out to be a real key player for me recently because him and I just did a very interesting project, which will hopefully see the light of day sometime next year. It's a jazz record with the drummer from the Doors, John Densmore.
Hmm. Okay, that
So
that's awesome.
that's just me. It's pretty special. It was um, really great to work with John, and the album is a mix of tracks, classic Doors stuff and other instrumentals and Miles stuff.
Hmm.
So it's that I'm really looking forward to happening, but no release date on that. It'll probably be sometime next year.
Hmm. So, like, let's talk about some Steven Wilson work that he has a upcoming tour coming out next year. He's going on
Right,
tour. So
right.
you are part of that band.
Yep, yep.
So, are you also involved in his solo work this time, or like, 'cause-
Um, it depends. It kind of it goes up and down. I did. I wasn't particularly involved with Future Bites. I'm on a
yeah.
couple of songs, and I think I recorded a few other things that perhaps didn't get used on that album. But then with Harmony Codex, I ended up being quite involved.
Hmm.
Uh, I really like that record. I think it's a great balance of what Stevens. There's more modern stuff that Stevens doing now,
Yeah.
and some of his more um, open-ended stuff from like the Grace for Drowning era.
Yeah.
And so I was involved. I actually co-wrote one of the songs called "Economy of Scales."
Yeah.
Excuse me, "Economies of Scale."
Yeah.
And yeah, that came about. I had an electronic loop and some piano chords that for a verse, and I played this idea for him, and he uh, started getting ideas right away, and so that developed into Economies of Scale. And
Hmm.
there's also a few other songs where I did some of the predominant loops and things like that. Beautiful Scarecrow. There's quite a bit of playing and some jamming on there too.
Hmm.
So yeah, especially what's it Impossible Tightrope. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of things on Harmony Codex which I felt I was able to really sink my teeth into.
Yeah.
Uh, then there's a new album which is not going to be coming out yet, which I play quite a bit on that too, but I probably shouldn't say too much about it.
Yeah.
Just I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. So let's back to your early childhood era. Like you have worked with the what were your mainly influence? Like how you became musician. A lot of people, for example, including myself, are guilty of it that you didn't know about your good work that you have done before the Steven Wilson band. And my introduction to you was actually when you joined the Raven project and Steve Grace for Drowning actually.
Awesome.
And then I was like, okay, who is this guy? So
Okay.
and then I explored your earlier work as well with working with Miles Davis and stuff. So can you share like how you grew up with becoming musician, joining Miles Davis band and stuff?
Okay, well, I'll just try and do this briefly. I was very fortunate to be born into a musical family, but My family was not musicians. My dad was in the record business, and this was the golden age of rock and contemporary music. I would say in general, the
Hmm.
late mid to late '60s, early '70s. And my I was very fortunate. It's like I'll say it again. My dad was the founder and president of Elektra Records.
Hmm.
So I grew up in an unbelievable, almost impossible environment of being around a lot of other musicians, and people come up to the house and they were blasting music all the time. And I had opportunities to go to the recording studio and watch the bands record, including the Doors. I even went to some Doors recording sessions. So that was the big thing. When Elektra signed the Doors, a lot of stuff sort of blew up at that point. Elektra became big. The Doors became big.
Hmm.
Uh, my dad became fairly powerful, I guess. Anyway, so that was, growing up in that environment. I was fascinated with what my dad did and with Elektra Records, but what I really wanted to do was what the musicians were doing on the other side of the glass,
Yeah.
which was playing music. I thought
Yeah.
that was cool. And right around the same time that he signed the Doors, I got started getting interested in playing organ and piano. Actually, organ.
Hmm.
That was what was all the rock bands were playing. And
Hmm.
my hero was Ray Manzarek from the Doors. I
Hmm.
mean, how could it not be, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're coming over for dinner and stuff like that. So I started playing organ, and then eventually, when I got into like middle school, I started actually playing a little bit more. I learned how to play boogie woogie and blues, and some early primitive jazz stuff, and started playing in bands and got better. I think that the next big jump for me was near the end of my college days. I formed a band with a guitarist named Ted Hall called The Fence, spelled
Hmm.
Fents, and we put out a couple of records, and we were very good. We played in nightclubs all over Southern California. We even did a little bit of touring, opening up for Alan Holdsworth. So we were kind of on the scene. We were sort of
Hmm.
like uh, pesky little upstart version of the Dixie Dregs. If you
Hmm.
substituted the country influence for sort of a half-baked jazz influence, that would be kind of where the Fence were coming from. And we made some good records. Anyway, it was around near the end of the Fence era that I started doing session work, and this is when the MIDI explosion blew up, and I
Hmm.
was one of the few guys that knew the technology but also knew how to play.
Hmm.
So I was getting a fair amount of recording sessions. I'd go in and bring a ton of gear and put together sounds for people, program a combination of programming and layering
Hmm.
and playing. Um, and I was doing a lot of work with an R&B artist named Randy Hall.
Hmm.
And Randy was part of the circle of musicians that was part of Miles's Chicago crowd. Miles's
Hmm.
nephew Vince Wilburn had a band and had some buddies, and they ended up getting involved in some stuff with Miles. And
Hmm.
they have two songs. Randy's the guy that sang the song "The
Hmm.
Man with the Horn." I don't know if you know.
Hmm.
And they also did another song on the record, I think, called "Shout."
Hmm.
Anyway, Miles was interested in working on some more tracks with Randy, and he brought me in to do the synthesizer programming, which is something like I said, I'd already been doing.
Hmm.
And so I came in, and Miles was impressed with the sounds. And I think he looked at me as a younger guy that, somewhat flexible, that he could mold into what he wanted to, which in the end is pretty much what he did.
Hmm.
Um, I with Miles, I started understanding a little bit more how to create a mood and not
Hmm.
just play a bunch of notes. And so the sound programming comes into play there. If you have interesting sounds to sort of swell up or
Hmm.
more for sounds that are full but don't get in the way of the other instruments. There's
Yeah.
lots of little things. I would do things like double lines with the sax and the bass. Um, I carved out my own role I should wait. I missed a step here. So Randy brought me in to program synthesizers for Miles, and Miles was fascinated with all these new sounds, and
Mm-hmm.
he almost instantly put me in the band. So I
Mm-hmm.
flew to New York with him 2 days later and started rehearsing with the band before they went on a European tour. And so I I went from just meeting Miles to 2 weeks later being on a European tour with him. So it was almost like it's almost a musical fairy tale. These kind of things
Yeah,
really,
that's
it was
awesome story.
magic. It was totally magic. But anyway, so I was in the band, and I had to figure out what my role was because he already had an excellent keyboard player, Robert Irving.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas Bobby Irving would play more of the standard comping and play more of the specific parts that were part of the compositions, I figured out where what I could add, which was
Mm-hmm.
doubling existing parts and creating more mood and atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably one of the first guys to play second keyboards in an established jazz group. So that that's I don't know if that's a big badge of honor or what, but I kind of figured it out. I sort of had to figure out how to because I wanted to stay, you know,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to do something that was useful. And yeah, it was a combination of creating atmosphere and doubling up existing
Mm-hmm.
parts, and also working with Miles. He would very often invite me up to his hotel room, and he'd have a keyboard or he'd be painting, and he'd talk about what we did that night before, the night before, or what he wants to fix, or
Mm-hmm.
if he had a keyboard, he'd play some chords and he'd want me to record them and write them out. And there was always little projects he had going. So
Going, yeah.
I became pretty involved. And then when Robert Irving left, I was actually musical director
Yeah.
at that point.
So you were also involved in like a tutu record, or you were
Yeah,
part of it as well?
yeah. Tutu was pretty much my main era there. I was on the album. I'm on a couple tracks on the album. I play a weird sort of solo on the song called Splatch.
Mm-hmm.
And and then and there's another album that came out from that era called Live Around the World, which and
Mm-hmm.
I'm on most of that. He did another studio album after Tutu called A Mandala.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and then see, Warner Brothers is very slow to release records and to record stuff, which I think might have been a mistake. I think they should have recorded multi-track, recorded more of the live shows, recorded each, you know, make sure they got each band lineup because the band morphed over time. When I joined the Miles band, there was, you know, 7 or 8 other players in the band. He had two percussionists and second keyboards, and you know, it's a pretty big group. And by the time I left in I guess it was in '89,
Mm-hmm.
the whole group had changed over except for me. So I was able to sort of be with Miles for one complete transition. The only
Mm-hmm.
by the time I left, everyone else everyone was
Was
different.
fired.
No,
Or
no. For some people leave, some
yeah,
people
some
leave,
people leave. Yeah, I mean, just
but but
on a
yeah,
lighter note, you know.
yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, interesting to know like your story. I think will running out of time, but
Okay.
we'll talk about when your new record comes out. We'll go
Okay.
into more detail and discuss how was your songwriting process for that and how you picked the guest. And so
All
we'll
right. Great.
go in more to it. So again, thanks Adam for your time, and I really appreciate
Thank you.
supporting my channel.